Hey, you, come, gather around the campfire, and welcome to the party. This is Party Chat, a JRPG podcast where we talk about everything that we love in the world of JRPGs and other Eastern titles. I am one of your hosts, Cameron Hawkins, and with me, as always, is my party partner, Kevin Kenson. Kevin, how you doing this week?
I'm doing all right. It's kind of been a hectic past week, but doing better. Been throwing up a lot of uploads lately, so just keep on moving right now.
I thought you were just about to say, just been throwing up.
Just been throwing up. Well, that too. Yeah, I wasn't gonna share that, but if we're gonna go there,
okay, that's cool. Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about. Just been working. I will say I'm really frustrated at Wizards of the Coast right now because they still haven't shipped my D&D Secret Lairs.
It seems like that one's been delayed for a lot of people because it already had like an official delay.
Yes.
Where it shipped like a week later than they said it would. But then like I know one person who's actually received their order, and mine hasn't shipped yet either. So it's coming eventually.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a buddy of ours, more so a buddy of mine, but like you're also acquainted with him, Ken Shepard, over at Kotaku. He doesn't. I don't think he listens to this podcast. If he does, aw, thanks, buddy. But I'm one of those people that like if I see something that I know this person's gonna like, and then I ask them like, "Oh, are you getting this?" And they say no for whatever reason. I'm like, "No, you need this." Like that's my mentality. I'm like,
Right.
No, you need this, and so I'll buy it for you. I'll buy it for them as a gift. And when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3,
I already know where this is going.
Yeah, his romance is Gale. Yeah, he loves Gale. And he got the Shadow the Hedgehog, which he loves Shadow the Hedgehog, and he got the 2 Last of Us Secret Lairs. To be clear, he does not play Magic.
Yeah.
He just wanted these because they're cool.
Yeah, purely totems. Like, here's
the
cool thing. Yeah.
And so I asked him, I was like, "You're going to get the Gale one, right?" He's just like, "Nah, I'm not." I'm like, the fuck you aren't, like, in my mind. And so I already pre-ordered, like, this was post like pre-ordering like the whole bundle or whatever, but the Gale one was still available. Even when we record this, it's still available. And so I'm like, and then the TMNT drop happened, and I'm like, you know what, when I pre-order the TMNT drop, I'm gonna get the Gale one for him, and then I'm gonna surprise him with it at PAX.
Right.
Not happening now.
Yeah.
No.
Oops. Well, it wouldn't have shipped until the TMNT stuff anyways, right? Because it's
the TMNT stuff is already in people's hands. We've known about the TMNT stuff before D&D.
I didn't realize it already shipped and completed that fast.
Yeah, yeah. We know what the bonus cards are for TMNT. Like, I mean, we do now for the D&D one, but that was like 2 days ago. We've known at least for like a week or so the TMNT ones because they shipped basically instantly, and I haven't gotten those yet because I'm waiting for the Gale one to be ready. Weird. And so really upset.
I wonder what happened
about that.
Really bizarre.
Yeah, especially because it's under their banner, right? Like,
that's all owned by. Well, yeah, it's all owned by Hasbro. So like,
yeah, Wizards owns the IP of D&D. So yeah, very, very bizarre. So I'm just gonna, I don't know. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna tell him that I got it for him, but it didn't come in time at PAX, or if I just ship it to him after PAX once it finally arrives here, or I'm gonna give it to him in person at SGF. I'm not sure yet. One of those 3 things.
Sure. And if he's listening, you've already narrowed it down to 2 of those.
Yeah. Yep. So, but yeah. So that is something that I'm very upset about. I've been checking every day, especially because people have started getting them. I'm like, where's like my two roommates got shipping notifications, but on Friday I haven't gotten anything.
Yep, I got no answers for you. I'm also waiting for what it's worth.
I know. I'm not asking for answers. I'm just saying it's bullshit. But yeah, so anyway, pretty light news week this week. We got a few things. things to talk about. We have a lot of like just a very quick announcements, like nothing to really dive in on. If you're into fighting game scene, there's a lot of new fighting game character announcements. Yeah, we got a couple of things for what we've been playing this week, and we got I think it'll be an interesting topic of the show for this week. But before we get into all of that, we're going to go through some housekeeping. If you've been enjoying the show, please go to your podcast service of choice, give us a 5-star review over there. We really appreciate it. You can also go to youtube.com/@partychat JRPG and hit the subscribe button over there. We also have a YouTube membership as well as a Patreon for $5. You get the weekly episode a day early, a bonus episode every month, as well as Campfire Catalog, which is our book club podcast. We also have an open Discord that we have. You can check out in the description of the video. Hop in, chop it up with us. Really good vibes in there, and more people keep coming in. So we appreciate everyone with that. Lastly, go to youtube.com/Kevin Kenson, hit the subscribe button over there. And now we're going to get into the news for this week. Xbox announced today that there is going to be an Xbox Partner Preview live stream on March 26th. That will be the day this podcast drops publicly. Conveniently enough. But it's okay because I'm going to be in Boston for PAX. We wouldn't be able to record our thoughts anyway. It is what it is. We'll talk about it next week. But yeah, so the Xbox Partner Preview live stream is going to be on Thursday, March 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can watch it on YouTube or Twitch. They have already confirmed that we're going to get an in-depth look at Stranger Than Heaven, the new IP from RGG Studio, which is very exciting. An update on Stalker 2, and the new look at The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, plus brand new reveals, world premieres, and Xbox Game Pass announcements. I think the big thing, obviously, to talk about is Stranger Than Heaven, of course, because we're super excited about that. I think we're at a point now where I kind of just want to get your theorized guess about what this game is. Because for me, I feel like that this is... It still obviously looks like an RGG game, but I think the presentation, it makes it feel more like kind of what you expect from a more traditional AAA game of that kind of caliber. And I'm kind of curious as to... I'm just curious about what the vibe is going to be, because it just feels a lot more grounded from like what we've seen. There is like obviously this fantasy or like element
There's a vaguely supernatural thing that's kind of hinted, and it's not entirely clear how much that's actually supposed to be supernatural. It's kind of just how people read this one scene near the end of the last big trailer. I mean, I think the main vibe I'm getting is they're kind of going for maybe a bit of a noir type deal. Mm-hmm. That's something that was pretty big in like Japanese film for a time, and you can kind of see some of those tropes and storytelling choices in what we've already been seeing. I mean, just the fact of when it takes place, they're leaning into that vibe right away. It's interesting you say that it feels more AAA. I mean, maybe just because it's a new IP and there's like a heavier lean into it, I don't necessarily see it being like a crazy higher presentation than like a mainline game. It certainly feels like mainline is in Yakuza. It does feel different in that, like, Yakuza has been primarily now going into the turn-based stuff, and it's like the real-time stuff has been the kind of more cheaper side games, like with Pirate Majima, that kind of deal. So if this is going in the kind of more real-time action direction, more beat 'em up style, like this is the most polished we've seen for that type of game for them in a minute. But like we're still seeing the reused like locations. They're changed up a bit, but like we already saw that there's parts that are in God, I always mix up the real life version and the fictional version. Sotenburi.
Sotenburi.
Yeah, Sotenburi. Yeah, like you already see that in like one of the trailers, and it's like, yep, that's Sotenburi, and like it's a little different because it's supposed to be 70 years in the past or whatever. but like that's it. And we do know that it's supposed to be taking place. They've already shown like kind of two different segments of when the game is. There's an even further back timeline. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what the actual full pitch for this game is going to be, because like I haven't made it a secret that I have my issues with the general direction of Yakuza, and a lot of that outside of specific Yokoyama writing styles being Yokoyama writing styles, a lot of it is how they're handling like things that have kind of been established by this point. And it's like, this feels like a weird choice for this character. Why are we redoing this in this story? This seems like an odd choice. So this being like a brand new IP with an original cast and that kind of stuff, I'm like, okay, you don't have the specter of like old RGG here. This is just a new project in and of itself. Let's see what you do. Like, let's see how this lands.
Yeah, I have a few feelings about what I hope this game is and what this game does, because I just don't want it to be a, hey, this is another like more traditional in sense Yakuza game, but it's just like in a different timeline and there's a different cast of characters, like or not timeline, but like time frame, and because like Judgment is my favorite RGG game, right? Like I love Judgment, but it's the characters and the story that made me love Judgment. Um, and so I don't really care about them reusing or like them being this in a similar location. I just hope that the things that surround the main story and all of those things aren't just Yakuza side quests again or side stories, and I want those to be like executed in maybe a different way. Again, maybe a bit more grounded, because again that's kind of the vibe I get from what we've seen of the game so far, and just like not make it kind of feel like it's Yakuza again but different coat of paint.
Sure.
And I know that that's kind of like what RGG does, but like I think we're at a point now where I'm like, okay, like we know you can do something different. Like
Yeah.
you guys are a good enough, talented enough studio that while yes, you do the kind of you're really great at reusing assets, I'm confident that you can do something new and refreshing and it be like just as good.
Sure.
Right? Because to a certain extent, we got that with Yakuza Like a Dragon and Judgment. Yeah. But like I just want to see more of that.
Sure. And I guess, to kind of go back to the idea about, this being, not having the baggage of older RGG. I mean, this is the first completely new IP that is current leadership, right? Like we haven't had a new, like Judgment, that was a thing that happened underneath Nagoshi as well. And so this is like the first like really ground up new project that is, the current leadership with Yokoyama and such. So yeah, like they might be wanting to experiment more because the people in charge are different this time. And yeah, maybe it is going to take bigger risks that way. I think we just haven't seen enough, which is what, this presentation is hopefully going to help illuminate, because it's like, we can just make all kinds of assumptions right now based off of the little trailers we've seen so far. But I think this presentation is going to help give a clearer idea right away of like, okay, is this kind of like business as usual, but with a different setting? Or is this like, oh, y'all are doing different right now?
Do you think we get a release date? Or at the very least, a release window?
Yes. I think release window, and then if it is sometime sooner than later, we get like a lock-in during SGF. But yeah, I think at least a general window.
I think that's like the fairest assessment for sure. I also want to bring up, because it's not just these 3 games.
Yeah.
Are we going to see Persona 4 Revival?
That's what I was going to ask you.
And it's like, it's tough. I think that if we do, it's going to be similar to like the initial reveal we got of Persona 3 Reload, right? Where it's kind of like just like a montage of stuff. We're not really going to like let anything in that trailer breathe in a real way.
Right.
And we'll probably get a release window, and hopefully we get to preview it and actually go hands-on with it at SGF.
Yeah, if it does show up, and to be clear, my stance is I don't think we're seeing it. I think it shows up next to SGF. But if it does show up,
that's fine. That's not too far off.
Yeah. But if it does show up, I think, yeah, it's going to be something meatier than the last initial reveal, which was just like the street. And it's happening. But yeah, it's like a hype trailer. It's like, let's get some quick cut-ins. Let's see what people look like in the new engine. Cool. Anyways, we'll talk about this more later.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna be so excited for that. We're getting new Persona 4 music, y'all. Probably at least.
At least
okay, cool.
Remix.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you think could realistically show up here that is of interest to you?
Not necessarily like specifically of interest to me, but I think one thing I'd be curious to find out is whether or not, a little bit of ways back now, I forget the exact timeline at the moment, Sega did promise like bringing back a lot of older franchises, and we haven't gotten a real update on like any of those in a while. There's been rumors circulating about some of them, like what form, like a new Jet Set or Crazy Taxi would take. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, maybe it's time to get an update on like one of those projects, two of those projects, because those also seem like the perfect, like, by the way, these are coming to Game Pass day one because Sega's not putting all their eggs in that basket right now.
I think if that does happen, it'll probably happen sometime in June. Because another thing to put into perspective here is that probably everything that we see here is also going to show up in June. And when it comes to like an Xbox showcase, and it being only a little under 3 months apart, people are going to be like, oh, it was just like the Xbox partner preview 3 months ago. It's the same games. Like, I think that they need to save some things for either that or just the SGF show, right? Like,
sure.
Could definitely see it just being there as well. Yeah, there's nothing. The only thing that comes to mind that I think is realistic, that we could get an announcement of, like a shadow drop, Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, like for Xbox?
For Xbox, yeah.
Sure.
Just like, hey, Final Fantasy 16 is out now, maybe even on Game Pass, day one, or like just like right now. I could definitely see that being a possibility. It's been a while, and I think, it's realistically gonna come to Xbox at some point.
The way that Square Enix has been operating lately, certainly. I mean, we even got a game announced coming to Xbox before it comes to PlayStation. So, like, here we are.
Alrighty. Final Fantasy IX is getting an animated series called Final Fantasy Black Mage's Legacy. This apparently was first announced back in 2021, and it's officially in production at Eurovisual. The studio's official website has revealed it is titled Final Fantasy Black Mage's Legacy, and will consist of 10 episodes, each 22 minutes in length. The description is, I'm sorry if I butcher these names, Kevin, I've not played Final Fantasy IX. Amel, Coln, Luciola.
So these are all
Thea,
new characters.
Fala, and Doc.
Yeah, these are all brand new characters.
Okay. Children of the hero Bibi are the last dark mages of the 4 continents. Today, they live happily in the city of Alexandria, guarded by its inhabitants who are rather friendly, although sometimes very curious. Unfortunately, this peaceful existence was not meant to last. One day, Colin discovers Mel, frozen like a statue, in the inn where he works. Could it be the tragic legacy of their father catching up with them? Kevin, you are Mr. Final Fantasy IX. What are your thoughts here?
Oh man, my thoughts are that anyone who pays attention enough to these announcements are getting spoilers for FF9's plot. Yeah, I remember when this was initially announced, back in 21, but it was definitely like just a very low key, like, hey, this is a thing that's being worked on. And I think a lot of people kind of assumed it died. I mean, that was an announcement during kind of still more peak COVID times, and it's just who knows what projects get upended or not. but it's happening, and we even got like character designs now for all the kids. Yeah, I'm down to see, what this ends up looking like. I think it's an interesting idea. I'm very curious how much it's going to touch on like the greater world, or if it's going to be a very like they try not to address anything about the world. It's just these specific characters and their journey, and we're not going to worry about where other people are at, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, very curious to see like the actual full shape of this thing. I will say I dig the designs for the kids. I don't know if you've seen the lineup of the 6 of them. It's very interesting
Yes.
how like some of them are like it's Vivi with a slightly different ribbon, and then others are like a way more interesting different redesign. Like Lucille is probably the most distinct one, where it's like, oh, you really took some liberties with the concept. But I think they each kind of give off their own little vibe and character that's really neat. So a fun way to kind of play with the, you would think the Black Mage design is a bit limited, but they found ways to make each one feel a bit different and stand apart. And one of them's got a sword. She's gonna stab people, maybe.
Yeah, you showed me. Okay, here it is. Yeah, you showed me in the Discord. I do like Mel. I like the little bandana wrapped around its hat, their hat. I think it's cute. I think all of them are great designs, but I think that one is like, I don't know. That's like a cutie patootie. So, yeah. But Mel is frozen, so that sucks.
Not gonna get a lot of time with her, I guess.
Yeah, apparently not. Starbites officially has a release date of May 21st. I wanted to mention this one a little bit more in depth just because I've played this game at PAX West last year, and I'm hoping that there's like an updated build to play at the NIS booth in Boston this week, because I really liked what I played. Like I definitely think just like for the short time that I played, did a really good job at like kind of making me interested in the world that they created. And so I just wanted to shout that out because that is definitely on my list, and I think it's one of the more, under the radar JRPGs coming out this year. So
For sure.
now we just got quickies for the week. Marvel Token Fighting Souls has announced Penny Parker as the latest fighter.
Welcome back, Tron Bon.
Fatal Fury City of the Wolves DLC character Blue Mary launches on March 26th. Guilty Gear Strive version 2.00 update. Season 5 DLC characters Jam Kuradoberi and RoboKey have been announced. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising is getting a new DLC character, and a lot of people are suspecting it will be Id, an original character that debuted in Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Makes a lot of sense to with how popular that game is.
Yep.
Under Night in Birth 2, Sis Celeste is getting a new DLC character sometime this year. Digimon Story Time Stranger is getting an expansion DLC sometime in 2027. Crimson Desert has officially sold 2 million copies. I think that this is a very great reminder of just like how we as people that follow games media like underestimate just like how mainstream, like how people like how so many people are just like not in this space, right, that are not following this game in a way, because the game
were you
came
surprised
out.
by the 2 million?
I think people were. I think a lot of people, like I think people in the media space were.
Interesting.
And I think that a big part of that is because like the reviews were divisive, right? Some people really liked it, some people didn't like it, some people thought it was a mixed bag. I know you're still playing through it right now, and you've kind of been like in the between the good to mixed bag area.
Sure. Yeah.
That I think people, not saying like the majority of media, but like there were definitely some people that were kind of like surprised that this already topped 2 million copies. And on top, because like on top of that, when the reviews came out, their stock went down like 30%.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah, like, because that's, I think there's a difference between investors paying attention to things and like consumers paying attention to things, because I think investors
Oh, for
saw,
sure.
the averaging out to like mid high 70s, and then like saw somehow some of the really low scores, and they probably panicked and sold and got out. I think there were a lot of people that just already had their mind made up that they were buying this game. Like I honestly, I'm very much of the opinion that reviews ultimately don't make an actual important dent in how well a game's going to sell, especially on launch week. Maybe over time or word of mouth, but I personally believe most people make up their mind whether they're going to buy our game or not well before reviews. Uh, and Crimson Desert had that hype going for it. A lot of people dove in. We saw some reactions from those folks too, where there were Reddit threads and stuff popping up, being like, "Oh wait, hold on, are these controls actually terrible?" Um, but yeah, like I mean, I saw the mixed reviews as well, but I kind of figured this was still going to do some numbers launch week.
No, I agree with you. I agree with all of this. I just think that I just saw some people that were just like a little bit surprised by this, and I was just like, yeah, dude, because like a lot of people don't follow the news, and Crimson Desert is kind of like been like this big anticipated game that a lot of people were waiting for, and most people, they will buy it no matter what. Like they don't, like the reviews don't matter. Like, there are definitely some games that I'm just like super highly anticipating that if like the reviews like don't hit, like I'm still gonna play it, but I'm also just a little bit like, a little bit like down in the dumps about it,
Sure.
because I was like me with Lost Soul Aside, right, where I was just like,
I was just going to bring up that exact
yeah,
example.
yeah, I was just like this was one of my most anticipated games for like a quarter of my life basically, and then it just didn't meet those expectations, even though I think I'm still having fun with that game. That I just think that this game is going to continue to sell, I think. And I'm also, most importantly, I'm very curious about what this game is going to look like in a year's time.
Oh yeah. I mean, this game is, during the review period, it got multiple patches, some of which made some pretty gigantic changes. And already post launch, we've gotten multiple patches, some of which have made gigantic changes.
Yeah, and
This is a game where I think it's going to be, even 6 months, it's going to look very different, I think, in a lot of ways. And some of the stuff people liked in the early jankiness might be removed as well. But I think it's going to end up congealing into something a bit different as time goes on, for sure.
yeah, and one of the, I forgot who it was, but someone in games media said that they thought it would have been like a much better idea for there to be like no review embargo, in the sense of like everyone just kind of plays the game at the same time,
Mm,
because the game was so big and because the game wasn't really ready for reviews, that the mixed bag reception from the reviews would like, it hurt the game in a way where if they just let everyone experience this massive game at the same time, some of that may not,
sure.
be as bad.
Yeah, I think if this was a situation where the game was like truly complete and like they weren't going to touch it beyond like, oh, discovered bugs or whatever. If it was like this game is going to ship as is and it is a complete game, and if reviewers had like, a month, 3 weeks minimum to work with it, uh that I think that's a situation where like reviews
Yes.
make sense. But
Yes.
because of how relatively little time was given for a game of this scale to review, and how much of what was reviewed isn't even entirely true anymore, because there's a lot of things that were changed. I mean, we're talking some pretty significant like QOL stuff that just immediately changed. Like a big one was they added a fast travel point to your home camp that didn't exist before, like when people were playing this game in review. So something that is a huge time saver and like heavily alters how you're traveling around and doing stuff, uh that immediately like is a major shift. They added storage like yesterday. Like camp storage is a new feature that just got added like a few days after release.
Yeah.
Pretty significant changes that like, yeah, I agree. Like I think if, because of how it launched, yeah, a real-time no embargo, everyone just experienced this at launch, would have been a better way to go, because the game that people reviewed is already not really the game it is today, like a week after release.
And
And
it's
that's
so
going to continue to change.
And it's so fascinating to me, like that they could have done some damage control here, where they could have been like, "Hey guys, leading up to launch, we want you to know that um, the game is in solid shape, but we are going to be releasing like notable quality of life improvements in the first few weeks of this game's release."
Yeah.
You know, and having that transparency would like, yeah, may affect, you know, the reviews may not have changed, but the reception from like consumers, I think, would have
Right.
been a bit better.
Yeah.
Because again, I agree with you, and I do think that most people that were planning on buying this game still bought the game regardless of the review reception.
Sure.
um but I still feel like that there are things that Pearl Abyss could have done by from a PR standpoint, that it's just like, hey guys, you know, this, that, and the other. And
Yeah.
because we're seeing it now, and like for some people, it may be like, nope, too late. I don't want to play this game anymore. Like, or this game is not what I want it to be, blah, 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 blah. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, I will say that like that actually was a thing that was communicated to reviewers as far as like there's going to be a lot of patches. I mean, reviewers knew there were a lot of patches because there were patches happening while they were playing it. And I don't know if the expectation was for that to like, hey, reviewers are going to also mention that like this game's going to be in a constant state of shifting, which not really anyone did. I think I saw a few people mention like, oh, this is definitely going to go through more changes, but it's like at the end of the day, you can only review the game that you have
That
played.
you're playing, yeah.
Exactly. And so that's definitely a limitation that ended up happening. Because even, you know, I was going to talk about this a little bit for what we've been playing, but like, you know, I've been checking in with it here and there as I've been like putting more time into it. And even this last update, I mean, there are some significant, I don't know what exactly on the back end changed, but a big thing is that in general, controls are like way more responsive. Like the action
Yes, I
combat
heard about that.
elements and platforming were really kind of loose feeling before. And that was one of the things that really, I think, negatively impacted, especially boss fights. Like, you know, your sense of timing just wasn't always quite what you would want it to be. And it's like immediately so much more responsive feeling now. And it's like, why did that wait until just now? Like, what? Yeah, just lots of really interesting things where it's like, you know, again, this game is absolutely massive in scale and there's so much you can do. And there's so many things that they like, so many systems that they put into it. But there's a lot of like very core concept stuff that it's like, it feels weird you figured this out a week after release.
Yeah.
Like, why was there not a fast travel to the main camp? Like, you're having fast travel exist in general. So why is that like one of the places that doesn't get it? You know, why, like, if you could just tighten up the controls literally like they did, like, why wasn't that a priority sooner? You know, it's just all kinds of stuff like that. It's just like there's this, they're looking at a sweeping forest and not looking at like the actual details people care about. I don't know.
Yeah. Lies of P has officially sold 4 million copies. Neptunia has revealed their next mainline title called Neptunia Unlimited, which has been announced for PS5, Switch 2, PS4, and Switch. Um, do not believe that there is any sort of release window for that, except for that it will launch in Japan in August. So it'll, you know, come to the US later, most likely. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds DLC Mega Man Pack is launching on March 25th, so it'll be out once this podcast drops. And Shinobi Art of Vengeance DLC Sega Villains Stage launches on April 3rd, which is the DLC where you fight like Eggman and Majima and all that stuff. So, very cool. Now we're going to get into what we've been playing this week. Kevin, what you been playing?
So I've been putting some more time into Crimson Desert, which we already kind of touched on a little bit. Again, you know, patches, putting in work. I do appreciate the upgrades. One thing we didn't really talk about during the news section was they also did get the AI art thing called out, which, you know,
Yeah,
leaves
which
some weird feelings. Yeah, especially because like, you know, it's one thing if it's like you tried passing like good looking AI, well, you know, relatively good looking AI art. It's another thing to be like, oh, this is very obviously like a generated image, like on site. Like if you just look at this painting, you immediately know this was, no one double checked this, which is pretty silly. but yeah, like the performance wise, the patches they're doing are improving a lot of the game experience. I'm seeing a few people be a little sad that they're already nerfing some bosses, which I get, especially because it's like if you're giving me more power via like better refined controls, maybe we don't need to like nerf those now because I can handle it now. But so it goes. I'm sure this is going to go through all kinds of changes in the next 6 months to a year. And then another game I wanted to bring up real quick because it launched today as of us recording this. I did download and just really quickly check out Final Fantasy Dissidia Duellum. And oh boy, people, it is a gotcha game. Uh, I primarily mean this in the fact that like there is just that very initial heavy onboarding of like we're now going to teach you how resources work and how pulls work and how you just get that like forced tutorial of like click here on the UI and you're just suddenly introduced to like 75 terms and concepts you have to memorize in that moment, and you're not going to until you've actually played for like a week. Um, the concept is interesting. I didn't really get a full sense of it when they did the initial trailers. It's basically like a 3v3 competitive game where you're trying to basically beat a boss before the other team does, but you can also interrupt the other team by like attacking them and dealing damage to them. And the way you damage a boss is you actually have to like take down these crystal key points that have regular enemies, and that allows you to build up your brave like in other Dissidia games, and then you spend the brave to like damage the boss. It's a whole thing. I don't know how much I'm really going to end up sticking with it. I just kind of want to check it out. But it runs well on my phone and it looks pretty. I will say one thing they do that I appreciate that is pretty nice is they let you pick one of four characters right off the bat, where it's just like, hey, do you want Cloud, Terra, who are the other ones? Cloud, Terra, Lightning, or Warrior of Light. Oh, okay. It's like those four, like you just pick one of those right away. No draw, nothing. And then after that, they also gave you a tutorial draw where you just have infinite retries to get who you want out of a pool of like, I think it's 9 characters right now, 10 characters. It is interesting who's in the initial roster and who's not. Because like we've seen more characters in trailers. Like we know Clive is coming, but Clive isn't available yet. But they do have like Krill from Final Fantasy V, which like, I like Krill, but it's just like, oh, you got that in before you got like anyone from FF10 in. Interesting. Like choices were made here. But yeah, I got Terra and Zidane right away. So I got characters I like. Zidane, if you go by the Dissidia pronunciation, which I hate. Yeah, it sure is a gotcha, people.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us your thoughts on that. I've been playing, or I played like about a 25-minute preview of a game called Rain 98. This is a visual novel adventure point and click type game. I would kind of there are a few things like I would compare it to, but like it's still not exactly that. Like it's a little bit of it's all first person. Like you're just like it's just you're looking at a screen. You don't see the main character.
Yeah, visual novel style. Yeah,
yeah, visual novel style. And it's interesting. So they make it clear that in the preview, you don't start from the beginning of the game, but you definitely start close to the beginning of the game.
It's still early. Yeah.
It's still very, very early. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a scene and that sets everything up, and then like you're in the beginning of the actual preview section that I played. And basically you wake up in the past and you're in 1998. And basically you wake up in this room, and the first image that you see, and a lot of these like descriptions that I'm going to be talking about, they're images on the Steam page. So like these aren't major spoilers, y'all. You see this girl that's seemingly about to hang herself. And you're having this conversation with her, and you're basically like telling her like, hey, like I'm from the future. I'm from 2025. And she's just like, okay, even if I were to believe you, like, do things get better? You know, does the world get better uh, from then to from now to then? And he says, absolutely not. Everything sucks. Um, and then she basically like reveals that she is a god, basically, or like a near all powerful being. Um, and she like wants to perform this ritual to destroy the world, because if nothing's getting better, why have it exist at all, type deal.
Sure.
And so your like goal throughout this game is to like help her with that. And she's like a very like um moody, like low emotion, low energy girl. Her name's Reina, and it's very, it's already like just interesting from a thematic standpoint, from a messaging standpoint. It kind of reminds me, like, not it's not a complete one for one, y'all. So don't be like, I can't believe he's comparing this to this, but like, it kind of gives me like some like AOT, like Attack on Titan vibes, in the sense of like the characters' mentalities. It gives it like a very much like kind of like an Aaron Yeager mentality, as well as a little bit of like Paul Atreides from Dune, like this kind of like person that you're this character that knows the future, everything sucks, and so you're just like, let's just burn it all to the ground, like type mentality. And it's just like, it's just very interesting. It again, this is like a 20-minute experience, so I have like a lot of questions as to like kind of what the real messaging, what the kind of thematic storytelling that the uh, developer is trying to do here, like the writers are trying to do here. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. There's some other aspects to it where you're basically like, you have to try and make money, so you work, and you're basically like putting like those capsule prizes. You're basically like making capsule prizes. And it's just like point and click, putting things in, closing it up, and you're just making money that way. There's another way to make money, but I didn't get to experience that in the preview. I would have to like play through it all again to get there. Um, and they definitely like touch upon the 90s kind of like popular like things, pop culture, like they call it a digipet, but like you basically are given like a Tamagotchi. And so there's a lot of interesting questions that I have about the narrative, and like why some of these kind of decisions were made. Like, were these decisions like, is in 1998 because of just how Japanese culture specifically was at the time, or like how the world culture was? Um, you know, yeah. And I pretty sure I'm able to say this, that I'm about like later this week at PAX, I'm gonna be interviewing the director of Rain 98. So we should have an interview up in about a week or so, and I'm going to be asking him like these kind of questions, and hopefully we get to hear some interesting perspective from him. So yeah, it's cool. There's no like public demo for this. I got sent like a code to play this demo, but I'm very cool, very interested in seeing how things go. And as of right now, there's like no release date or anything like that. So,
Neat.
did you have any questions, Kevin?
No, I mean, I just found out about this game 10 minutes ago when you started talking about it. So, yeah, I mean, it certainly sounds, there's lengths of logic here that very much sound like a visual novel.
Yeah.
Not that it can't do its own unique things with that. Yeah, I'm curious to learn more about it, but nothing off the top of my head right now.
Cool. Now we're going to get into the topic of the show this week. And we're going to talk about true endings. The reason I wanted to talk about this was that I was listening to Level Up Legacy, And friend of the show, Slam Zany, was talking about how he wasn't a huge fan of Sea of Stars. I was just like, that's crazy to me. Like, I'm not saying that like Sea of Stars is like one of my favorite JRPGs ever, but I think it's like a solid 8.5 out of 10 game for me.
Sure.
And I think that like Garl is one of the best RPG characters in the past like 5 to 10 years, in my opinion. Like he's really, really great. And when I was like talking with people in their Discord about it, we were talking about like kind of how the true ending or like the ending of the game is held and like the true ending and things like that. And it made me like really think like, you know, I think I would have been much higher on Sea of Stars if it was restructured in a way where like the things that you do to get that true ending was just integrated into the story in a more natural way and not like, okay, here's this fake ending. Now you have to like do all these things to get the
Sure.
true ending. And it's just like, and I know that was a very common thing back in, you know, during the retro era. And I totally get that. And I totally get that Sea of Stars was, you know, directly inspired by those things. It just really made me think. I was just like, is there like any game that like has like a true ending structure that I truly love? Like, that I
Yeah.
truly like think like, oh, this makes sense why they designed it this way?
Sure.
Because it's ultimately, to me, at the end of the day, it's a design choice, right?
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, it just really made me think because you know we've touched upon it a little bit in the past. Like we've talked about like you know, Persona 5 Royal, Persona 4 Golden, like you get to a certain point in the game, you have to make certain choices to get like the true ending.
Yeah.
And never like
Particularly in
that.
those games where they were re-releases and it was like it wasn't just a true ending, it was literally, hey, do you want to see the new shit?
Yeah.
Make sure you do these things. Yeah.
Yeah. That yeah, I kind of wanted to like open the floor to like true endings, how we feel about them, like do we think that they have a place in the genre still,
Sure.
and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, so to begin with, like, I will say that in general, I am much more cool with the concept of true endings than some other folks I know. There are people I've talked to who are like, the mere concept of it causes veins to burst in their forehead. And I'm like, okay, I get it. We're not a fan. But like, I've never really been bothered by them. And maybe that's because I did, you know, play in some of the older era where like you had true endings that were very specific requirements and it was like built off the idea that you're going to play this game multiple times to be able to see these things, because there are so many different ways you can handle a true ending, right? Like, you know, the Sea of Stars approach actually is not that particularly common from an old game standpoint because it's built in a way that you are doing it all within a single playthrough. For those that don't know, minor structural spoilers, you have to beat the game once before it basically openly acknowledges, oh, by the way, here are some extra things you can do to get a true ending. You can do all these things before beating the game, but even if you do all of them, you still have to go through like the regular default ending first and then like reload the save file, and that unlocks being able to do the true ending stuff. um so that is actually a little different because there's a lot of older games where it was just like, hey, there's going to be like an okay ending that's kind of unsatisfying, but if you did all these very specific things right over the course of the game, you get to get like the extra cool happy ending. I think some really good examples of this particular approach is stuff like Valkyrie Profile. No idea how anyone would like innately figure out what you need to do to get the good ending in that game in your first playthrough. Like I could see maybe connecting the dots, but it's some esoteric, specific, weird requirements that like you're not going to get just blindly playing. Suikoden 2 also has multiple endings with a particular like, yeah, this feels like it's supposed to be the true ending kind of thing. And that has some pretty random requirements that it's very possible you don't meet on your playthrough. Most of the weekend games have like a requirement of like, oh, you get the cool extra ending if you recruit everyone. 2 is like, yeah, sure, recruit everyone, but also, did you do this very specific thing for this part? That's just like kind of bizarre. That a lot of older games did that kind of approach, and it was definitely built off the assumption you were going to play them more than one time, and that's why it's like fine. It's like a cool thing to discover, on your third or fourth playthrough. But yeah, Sea of Stars definitely takes a friendlier approach by doing that approach. But I do know there are a lot of people who are just like, why not just give that to me up front? I personally liked it in Sea of Stars, especially because the way it's handled in terms of
The
what.
world and the lore and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there is like plot that comes out of seeing the original ending first. Like it's not like a thing where like there are little bits of information you get from the default ending. I think a good equivalent to this would be like Undertale, for instance.
I was going to bring up Undertale at some point, so I'm glad you
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I mean, Undertale is very much the same concept to Sea of Stars, actually, where there is a true ending, but you have to do like a regular normal ending first before you have the ability to pursue that. Undertale, you can't do pure passive and then still get like the true passive ending. You have to go through some other things first, including beating the game once. So that follows the same kind of thing where it's like you can do all the other triggers right, but you still have to like beat Asgore once and see how that plays out first.
Yeah, and but I was going to ask you, like, do you see Undertale like that, structured in a way with like there is a true ending? Like, obviously, there's obviously certain different routes, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of curious as to.
Yeah, I mean, different devs approach this different ways, right? Because there are some games that outright go, this is the true ending, right? They advertise it that way, they title it that way. That's what it is. And then there are other games that would have what you would call like assumed true endings, where it's like it's not titled that, but there's a lot of reasons why it kind of feels like, okay, this is the one where I've beaten the game. And I think a lot of people would consider Undertale one where pacifist feels like a true ending, while genocide is like a alternate crazy ass ending that requires you to do some extra difficult challenges to be able to clear and see happen. It feels like a secret ending that's like an alternate crazy thing. That's at least how I tend to view it. I feel like very much the pacifist ending is implied as like a kind of proper, true, at least traditional good ending. And that is one where they gate it by, you have to do a regular ending first real quick and then reload up and then time for true.
Okay. Yeah, because I also think about like I also kind of think about Chrono Trigger, because like Chrono Trigger is interesting because you can it very much like pushes you. I'm sure it's possible, I haven't looked into nitty gritty of Chrono Trigger like that, but like it very much kind of pushes the idea of like, hey, get to the end of the game proper, defeat Lavos, and you win. But then you get to play the game again, and even though you could already do it in the first run, it's just like, hey, you can basically fight Lavos whenever you want.
Yeah.
And then you can beat the game. And there's like different endings depending on when you defeat them. And it's just like, okay, like, and that's kind of the charm, right? Like outside of it just being a great JRPG, that's like one of the unique charms of that game and how that idea is implemented specifically into the plot of Chrono Trigger. But like it's just like, yeah, so it's just like if you just play through the game like normal, is that the true ending? Like if
So there's actually like 3 different endings that you could get
okay.
doing a regular playthrough, depending on stuff you did. 2 of them are definitely more likely than another one. Because there are some benefits for doing all of the side stories and like beating Lavos a certain way. But also there's an ending you reach if you go to Lavos the first time you can power wise, but you're missing a certain character. We'll
Yeah.
just say it that way. And so like there's like three endings that I think are possible to get on like a first playthrough, depending on how you approach it, especially a blind playthrough where like maybe you don't figure out what you're supposed to do for getting a character. Um, and then a lot of the other endings are definitely a bit more tongue in cheek because like the three endings that you're more likely to get in your first playthrough, those feel like endings. Whereas a lot of the ones where it's like, oh, congratulations, you beat Lavos this early in the game, a lot of them are like very clearly kind of jokes. Like they're kind
Mhm.
of just
Yeah.
like, oh, now the reptiles are kings, or and now this character is this, and it's like, what is happening? Um, and one of them isn't even an ending; it's just literally, hey, congrats, here's the dev room. Uh, but I would say that Chrono Trigger does actually have a true ending because once they released Cross and once they did the PS1 version of Chrono Trigger, there's only one ending that gives you a particular bonus scene that basically directly sets up some stuff happening in Chrono Cross. So
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
there is a canonized true ending in the game, which is basically the ending of do everything. You know, it's like
Yeah.
do everything you can do possibly in the main story, do all the side quests, and like here you go, cool. That is the assumed like timeline in other games, basically.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. It's I just have a weird relationship with it because it's just like, for me, my mindset is just like, what is the point? And there are again, there are certain instances where that is well designed. It's well uh, executed, like Undertale, like Chrono Trigger, because at least with Chrono Trigger, it is a part of like the general lore of the game, right? Where it's just like, yeah, if you defeat Lavos early, you're changing the past, you're changing the future, like, and the world is going to end up a different way because Lavos did not, you know, do his thing this entire
Yeah,
time up to that point, and like
yeah,
that's neat. That's neat. Um, and so like for Chrono Cross, like or Chrono Trigger, I kind of like I understand it to a certain extent because it's just so ingrained into the DNA of what that game is.
sure.
Um, but then when I think about like, you know, again like Persona, where it's just like, do we just do it? Like
Yeah,
I think
what is weird too
I
though
think
is
one
like
instance. Well, I was gonna say like I think one instance where it's actually like an interesting um choice, which like you can I think either they just immediately kind of revert you back, or you can just like reload your save or whatever. Is like choosing spoilers for Persona 5 Royal, choosing Maruki's deal, right?
sure.
Where if you choose his deal, like everyone's happy. It's like it's honestly really tragic. It's a really tragic ending.
Yeah, but that's like an
And
alternate bad ending kind of thing, right? That's like an
yeah,
early ending type deal, which is those are always interesting because a few JRPGs mess with that concept where it's like, oh, just get this early bad end, and then do you want to reload and do the other choice? Um, yeah, that's the thing. I think the thing is Persona's weird because the only reason true endings exist in like, you know, 4 Golden and 5 Royal is because they were re-release games that added new plot, but they didn't want to like close off the ability to just see the regular original endings of the game.
well, in Persona 5 you can sell out your friends.
Yeah, but that's also like an early bad end thing. It's not like you then play through a whole like separate storyline of how that like is different. Like
I know,
that's just
but
an
what
early
I'm
bad end the same way Maruki is.
yeah, but what I'm saying is like when we know like I just like what is the point? Like you selling out your friends doesn't, to me it doesn't add like a narrative weight to the game, right? It's like
I
I think with Maruki and and like that whole deal, I do think that that is like a good example of having like two different endings. I think Expedition 33 is a good example of having two different endings. But yeah, yeah, even though like you don't really, and granted you don't do it in Persona either technically, but just like the idea of this story basically being linear the entire
mhm.
time until you get to like a specific moment in the game, and it's just like, all right, It's either you do the good path and you keep on going till you beat the game proper, or you choose the bad path and it's basically just like game over.
Yeah. I mean, I will agree that like the original 5 alternate one with like selling people out is kind of a dumb one. But I also just don't really see it as a detriment because it's such a very obvious like this is an early bad end, and anyways, here's what happens when you play it. I think there's an arguable thematic concept here where it's like the persona protagonists are supposed to be a self-insert, and so this is a choice you, the player, make, and so it's like an affirming thing that you choose not to do the act of selling out. But again, it's such a clear like alternate bad end. The only one that I actually would argue is kind of dumb, and again, there's a thematic reason for it, but I just think it's more dumb, is Persona 4's, where it's, hey, name the criminal mastermind. And it's like, cool, if I don't type in the right name right now, I just get a bad end and I have to do it again and type the right name.
That's so like here's the thing. That's good because you're an investigative team. You're supposed to find out who it is. And they are making you the player do that. Like like
and,
that.
And just like 5 is making you not sell out your friends.
No, that's not the same. That is not the same.
I feel like it is, Cam. I feel like it is.
But it's not. Because
I just don't see the issue when it is such a
the issue is because it's obvious and because like it doesn't add anything. Why does it exist? It
exists because it's you as the player affirming the choice.
But
it's like how which one was it? Was it 5 where if you don't agree to terms and conditions at the start, it just takes you back to the loading screen? Because it's like, no, like you have to like say that you want to take this adventure. Like I thought that was a fun thing, and it bothered a lot of people, but like, I thought it was cool.
But like who in reality is going to play through 60 hours, get to that point in the story and be like, yeah, I'm selling out my friends?
You want to see what happens if you click it. Just basic human like concept. What do you mean curiosity?
That is different than you saying that you were role playing and making a choice.
Yeah. But that's what, okay, no, it's both at the same time. It's giving you an alternate thing that you could just click on for shits and giggles, but also you are, as a player, affirming the choice you make. Like, how are those conflicting things?
Those are conflicting things. You're not...
You can absolutely have both those things.
Affirming a choice based off of your experience of the past 60 hours is not the same as LOL, I want to see what this path does.
Because those are different logics for each choice.
I know, but again, like the argument you're trying to make is that you're making an affirming choice based off of your experience of the game so far.
Right.
Correct?
Well, no, you're making there's the affirm choice and there's the fuck around choice.
And see, like I don't at that point I don't want it to exist.
It does literally nothing to create any kind of negative impact.
But it does nothing to add either. So it shouldn't exist.
I think it's funny that you have that choice to do that. That's what it adds. Like what's like what is actually being harmed here? It's not affecting
nothing
the
is
actual
being harmed, but
story.
nothing is being gained.
I think it's a fun addition.
Like I'm not saying that it is like objectively bad. I just think that why does this exist in a way that adds to the experience in a real way? Because like everything that it is just like such the antithesis of like everything that you as a character and you as the Phantom Thieves have done at this point. It just feels so out of place. And like, because I can understand in the sense of like, again, just comparing the original 2 choices versus the royal choices with Maruki's deal.
Sure.
Like Maruki made good arguments. You know what I mean?
No, like in universe, Maruki's thing is a more interesting choice, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like there's actually like obviously like the players, like you can't take Maruki's deal, but you understand where he's coming from. You can relate to what he's saying. instead of like it being Sai, who is in on it, by the way. This is all a bit,
Yeah,
which makes it even
it's
worse.
literally all a bit. Yeah,
yeah. That Sai is like, oh, confess to your friends, and then you're just like, yeah, I actually am going to confess, but and it's like, but the plan, like, what about the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
for
you.
me, I don't like it.
It's
I don't like
you as a player fuck it up. Like that's all it is. Like I don't. Yeah,
And yeah,
I don't
I
see
don't
how
like
that
that.
bothers you the way it does. It's very funny to me.
It it bothers me because it doesn't it feels out of place. It doesn't fit, like, to me it doesn't fit the story.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I just it's this is one of those immovable object, unstoppable force situations where it's just like our worldviews on the existence of this and how much it impacts the experience are just completely different.
Like, here's the thing. No, here's the thing. Like, when I play the game and I get to that point, I'm not like, oh, this stupid choice. It's not like that. It's just like, why does this exist? It's just like the most like nonchalant.
Again,
like
I think it serves. I think it serves a thematic purpose of giving the player, like giving you the player, making that final decision. There's a clear, correct decision, and you're going to see a dumb early ending if you don't make.
And that's
that
why I don't like it.
But you, the player, have to say yes. I'm not going to do this. Like that's the point.
And I think it's stupid. I just think it's stupid.
Okay, I don't. That's the end of that particular situation. Like that's what I mean. No. Like we're just on polar opposite ends of this, and like there's
and that's fine. You know, that's totally fair. I don't think you're a bad person for thinking.
I don't think that about you either. That's not what this is about.
No. I'm not saying that's what you were assuming. I just need the record straight here. Like I just need it to be verbalized that like
right.
Yeah, so that's totally fair. Again, I think that true endings can have a place. I just think it needs to be executed in a way that makes sense and feels earned and you know, is interesting and fits the narrative and things like that. And you know, Persona 4 I think does a great job at that, actually. Like, you know, again, because that is what
you have to solve the crime. Yeah,
you're trying to solve the crime. And then there's like other instances, like not a JRPG specifically, but still like an Atlas game, Catherine. Like I think Catherine does a really great job at having different endings and doing different things, and what those end up being. So like, you know, shout out there.
Yeah, but remind me, because it's been a long time. Is there like technically a true ending for Catherine? Because there's two true endings, but it's like which person you get with, right? So even though they're both called true, it's like a weird situation where they have two true endings, and it's like, wait, and that's in the original release. I don't know how it works with the updated one that like added another heroine and that did its own thing.
Yeah, so I believe the true ending is when he it's just simply when he, at least in the original Catherine, when you choose Catherine with a K, and you like
I'm pretty sure there's a true Catherine K and a true Catherine C, and then there's like good and bad versions for each of those routes as well. It's basically just which best ending do you want with which girl.
Yes, I think that is true. Because admittedly I only did Catherine with a K and then Rin in full body.
I wish I never played full body.
Yeah, Catherine, the original Catherine's better in my opinion.
I've heard that from a few people. Yeah.
I like Rin in general, but like just what they just rework too much stuff, and I think its themes get really muddled. So, but yeah, really love Catherine. Shout out to Catherine. That's probably my favorite puzzle game. It might, after Persona 4 Golden, it might be my favorite Atlas game. I love Catherine.
That's a strong. There's a lot of Atlas games to choose from. Yeah,
I love Catherine. I mean, yeah, but also to be fair, like outside of Persona and like a few SMTs, I played Soul Hackers 1 and 2.
That's
There's
true. You
still
didn't really get into like Vanillaware stuff, which I realize
there's
is different because that's a different dev, but
yeah,
like
that's
they're
different.
published under Atlas. Yeah.
Yeah, that's different. But like there's still a good chunk of Atlas games I've just haven't gotten a chance to play yet. So like that could change, but like yeah, I mean like Persona like I mean all three Personas are phenomenal, of course, and then like Catherine and Tokyo Mirage Sessions are like the big ones for me. What?
Sorry, it's just I know what you mean, and you're not technically wrong for saying this, but I always laugh when people say the three personas.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
I know what you mean. It's just always funny to hear that because it's like, yep, it's basically a different series. Those are two. They're not the same. They're all called Persona, but they're not the same series.
I want to play them too. It's just I would rather not play them on my Vita. I would like them to get ported.
Yeah, I hope they eventually do that. It'd be nice just to have, even if it's just like the PSP versions, just like cleaned up for current stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's a rumor floating around for a while that the at least the two Persona 2 games were getting a port or like a remaster, which would be great. I don't, don't need them to be a remake per se, but would love that. Are there any other examples of true endings that you wanted to talk
Uh,
about, Kevin?
I mean, I guess the other one worth bringing up is the idea of games where it's like you have branching paths that have like interesting, distinct endings, but then ultimately there is a true one. And that gets a little more muddier for me because it's like, okay, what are we doing with our themes here? Because it's one thing where it's like, hey, you have to do the right things to get the true ending. It's another thing to be like intentionally from the get-go. And sometimes this just simply comes down to capitalism. I think the big example is Fire Emblem Fates, where like you have the two versions that are like very clearly incomplete stories. Like if you play those games without knowing about the existence of the third route, it's just like, wow, that game ended. And arguably still like, there's some decent writing and things that happen in those, but there's just so much like non-resolved things. And then the true ending is like, we're going to combine the plots of both games in different ways, and we're going to actually explain like the backstory and get into it. And it's like, cool, man, you needed me to spend money to like get that. Thanks.
I mean,
Love it.
they didn't do it again at the very least, right?
They did not, yeah. And that was even the thing with like, that versus Three Houses, where like,
We said we wouldn't talk about Three Houses.
no, I said you wouldn't.
You bastard.
Where like, that was one of the things I liked about Three Houses, where I do think it has some failings in this regard, but I liked that Three Houses stuck with the idea of like, there are multiple endings, but none of them are really like a good, proper, full resolution. Which is something I would have loved for Fates. Like if Fates had the same rough outline of story that we had in Birthright and Conquest, but they actually also explained all the actual like shit that comes up in the third route, I'd be like, okay, like these work a little bit better. It's the fact that there's so intentionally holes left in them that just really made that feel like you just want me to buy the true ending. Like you're keeping that behind a paywall. Why?
Yeah.
Which is not the only game to do that. Another one, and this was in the era of like everyone experimenting with DLC, but this was one of the worst experiments. Asura's Wrath. That was just literally like you beat the game and then you get a cliffhanger. Basically,
There's literally
you don't even get a
parts
cliffhanger.
of the story missing.
Yeah, like
So
the
just
game
sold as
ends
DLC.
and it feels kind of weird, and then there's a DLC that you get that like if you buy the DLC, it's like, oh, here's the actual like rest of the game. Which at this point, it all goes on sale cheap enough that it's like kind of whatever. But back in the day, it's like, y'all, I bought this. Why are you charging me to get the actual ending? Like,
Yeah, that was
what the hell?
wild. Even though Asura's Wrath is a fantastic game,
absolute banger of a game. Yeah.
The Capcom, what are you doing? Like y'all have been making so many smart choices, but you haven't ported Asura's Wrath. Like, come on now.
I'm very curious how Capcom feels about that game and like what the history is what the relationship is with CyberConnect at this point. Like, I'm sure the IP rests with Capcom because we've even seen stuff like they had an Asura outfit for Street Fighter V.
Dude, Asura as a fighter. Like when they did the Street Fighter DLC, which is incredible, by the way, just watch it. Just go on YouTube and watch that DLC. I thought for sure Asura was going to be a character in Street Fighter 4. I was like he was going to be a DLC character,
Sure.
and he's never showed up, and then he never showed up in 5, and
Yep.
now he hasn't shown up in 6, and I'm like,
I was waiting for at
please!
least like a Marvel vs. Capcom type situation, which
Yeah!
we unfortunately just didn't like get enough of those after, and now we're getting Tokon instead. Oops. I'm really curious if Capcom is going to do another crossover game at some point, because that Infinite really seemed to poison the well a little bit. Anyways,
Maybe Capcom versus SNK.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's that hope. There's that hope out there.
That'd be neat. I mean, we've gotten a bunch of SNK love in Street Fighter 6, so
that feels a little poisoned right now too for different reasons.
It does,
but
it does. Yeah,
just bring back Capcom versus Tatsunoko. That's the actual right answer.
That'd be cool.
Anyways, yeah. So like, you know, there are games that treat multiple endings where, you know, again, it's there are different ways to handle true endings that I think serve different structural purposes. Certainly the most annoying is, hey, pay money to get the actual good ending. I'm totally fine and cool with the ones where it's like reload up and see some things play out differently. I think there is some interesting stuff, especially when there are those additional requirements, but they still want you to like go through the regular ending first before you get to see the true differences. I think oftentimes there's an intent in like seeing how things are different and like what, you know, why the extra things you had to do were necessary to create that better ending, whether that's in, you know, Undertale's Pacifist or in Sea of Stars', which I will say Sea of Stars', that one was definitely more of like a, we want to have a true ending. It's like a trope choice, as well as a callback for what you have to do to get the true ending, to a particular other retro game. That one did feel more out of just like, we wanted to do it for the sake of the homage, and is a little bit weaker, I think, in terms of like the differences between the two endings, but it still worked for me. I have seen some people be very upset about the fact they have to like go through the end again, even though it's one fight and it's a different fight anyways. So yeah, that's a whole thing. Yeah, I generally like them. I think the only one now that has aged poorly, which again, this was to fulfill kind of a different need back in the day, but having like very uber specific requirements that you just have to somehow magically know in advance to be able to accomplish. You know, I think there are some games today that kind of pull that off in an interesting way, like Triangle Strategy. I like how they do it because it is intentionally a new game plus thing. It's like, I think it is technically possible to get the true ending on your first playthrough, but it is very difficult to do. It is intentionally a thing that like you should do this on New Game Plus, like for sure. Yeah. Possibly even your like third or fourth playthrough. And there are thematic things with that I think are interesting. But I always go back to Valkyrie Profile, where I'm like, I do love this game a lot, and knowing what I have to do, it's all fine. But oh man, if I just played that game blind and I found out like what the actual requirements were after like banging my head against a wall trying to figure it out, it's silly. Here, okay, I'm not going to give the full breakdown, but I feel like I need to illustrate some of the requirements.
Okay.
So to begin with, there's an accessory that you start automatically equipped with. You need to unequip it as soon as possible. That's just like, you would never, why would you do that on like a blind playthrough, right? It's just like, oh, I have this one piece of gear. No, unequip it. You need to do that. And then the other requirements are all things like, because there's a whole thing where at the end of each chapter, you like send a person to Valhalla, and there are some specific characters you need to send and specific characters you need to not send, which like that you could maybe parse a little better on multiple playthroughs. But yeah, there's just a couple things that are like, who would figure this out? Like ever, you know, outside of someone who's just really played the game that much or bought like a guide.
A guide, yeah. I was gonna say like a guide, maybe.
Yeah.
Dang. That's nuts. That's funny. Wow. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything else on the true ending side that I can think of that I want to bring up. All right, everybody. You can follow me on socials at CamFinalMix, and you can follow Kevin on socials at Kevin Kenson. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this week's episode and the chaos behind it. And until next time, we'll catch you later.
Later.